You took them. Just
Commissioner Grinberg,
Here.
Commissioner Capitan,
Here.
Commissioner Breitling,
Here.
Commissioner Peterson,
I'm here.
Commissioner Sherling. Here.
Thank you. I'm going to turn my mic on first. Thank you, Taylor. We do have a quorum. Taylor, if you please lead us in the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Taylor. Commissioners, I presume we've had a chance to review prior meeting minutes. If so, I'd look for a motion to approve or amend.
Move to approve.
Your second, please.
Second.
Motion and second that prior meeting minutes be approved as presented. Any discussion on the motion? If not, all those in favor, English, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Order of the agenda. We do have an amendment to the order of the agenda, and I think we have a commissioner who wants to pull an item down. So discussion, please.
I do, if I
Commissioner Shirley,
may.
please.
I would like to approve the order of the agenda with the addition of moving item G down to from the consent, adding item G to the consent agenda.
Okay, there's a motion to add item G, which is presented before you. It's the authorized SEH, and we should have a note in front of all of us. So we have a motion. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. That has been added to the consent agenda. Commissioner Breitling, did you want to pull something down?
No, thank you.
Okay, so now I'm looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended, please.
I'll move.
So moved.
Moved and
Second.
seconded, thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? If not, one more ask. Any discussion on the motion? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Capitan,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Sherling,
Yes.
Commissioner Breitling.
Yes.
Motion passes. All right, consent agenda. Presume we've had a chance to review the consent agenda with the exception of the amendment that you just got right now. Look for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented, please. I thought that was to amend the consent agenda. That was amend the order of the agenda, now the consent agenda.
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, a roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Breitling,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan,
Aye.
Commissioner Sherling.
Yes.
Consent agenda has been approved. Now is the time for public comment. If you are not on the agenda for any reason, now is the time for you to address the commission. I don't see anybody online either. Taylor, do you see anyone? Okay, last call for public comment. I saw someone just joined. Last call for public comment if you are not on the agenda. All right, we'll proceed into the regular agenda. Thank you, everyone. Item 1 on the regular agenda, review, approve request for Maple River. Mr. McShane. Welcome, sir. Please step to the podium, introduce yourself.
mic on? Mr. Chair?
Commissioner Grimberg?
Yes, Mr. Chair, is the mic on?
The mic will be on momentarily.
Thank you.
Apologies.
Okay.
Olson, welcome.
Chairman Peterson, commission members, thank you. My name is Roger Olson. I'm chairman of the Maple River Water Resource District. And actually, the Maple River Water Resource District has been asked to provide Davenport with flood risk reduction. So we have been about this project for several years. And Davenport's in a very precarious situation. If they do not get flood protection, a certified levy, they'll be brought in to have to pay actually flood insurance. So this is a big project. It is well supported by the people that are going to be helped by this project, and we're in the process of securing the land rights, and it's gone quite well. We've come to a stalemate on one last property, and we're before you today to request to take possession of the necessary right-of-way easement in this project. At this time, I'll turn it back to Chris, and we would be open to any questions.
Perfect. Roger. Commissioner Grimberg, hopefully you can hear me a little bit better this time.
Yes, sir.
So the Davenport Flood Reduction Project, as Commissioner Olson indicated, is a project that has been long in the making, and it is a project that will benefit the citizens of Davenport. There has been approval for funding, both from the Cass County Commission, you through the sales tax process. There has been an approval of funding through cost share at the state of North Dakota, and there has been a vote for assessment, and I believe that vote was passed for the assessment district on a roughly 90% approval basis. The important element of that funding is the funding through the state of North Dakota. That is important because 6116.109 sub 2 sub B, so the North Dakota Century Code allows for what is called quick take if there is state funds involved. And the process for acquiring the right-of-way necessary for a flood control project is set forth in 6116.109 sub 2 sub B. And that is a laborious process that the Maple River Water Resource District has taken great pains to make sure that they make it through. Before we go any further as to what that process for negotiation has looked like as we negotiated with these landowners, I will introduce Ms. Dussolme, who will be able to provide us some mapping and remind the commission of what the project design is for and some of the history behind that.
Welcome. Perfect.
Apologize for those of you on the call who can't see the map. As they already covered, I mean, you're all aware, historic flood events, 2009, 10, and 11. Davenport used emergency measures at that time, including a temporary levee and cutting the railroad embankment to allow the water to flow around town. Then in 2016 were when the first maps were released for the preliminary Western Cass FIS. And Davenport was previously unmapped, and as they noted, now a significant portion of the city, and that is the floodplain you can see on the maps you received, would be federally mandated to carry flood insurance. So a lot of benefit to this project, both for real flood risk as well as the financial side of things. So in 2017, that JPA was signed between the Water Resource District and the city, and work began on the project. In 2018, we did a project alternatives analysis. We looked at levee versus flood wall. Flood wall is a lot more expensive. It also, as you can see, there's not a lot of space around the outer edge of this project. There's a lot of railroads surrounding the city, So there just wasn't a good way to run the levy.
Pause for 1 second. Commissioner Grinberg, I just sent you a copy of the map she's referring to.
Yep, I'm looking at it now. Thank you.
Thank you.
So using best practices of design, we cannot avoid the Steinweg property, which is highlighted on the map before you. And as was previously mentioned, 2019 and 2020, all of those funding sources were approved. Since then, the modeling for the Western Cass FIS has changed a little, so we've had to keep updating our project to accommodate that. Our modeling needs to go with that. Where we sit today is 8 out of 9 landowners have signed their purchase agreements. The Section 404 permit is approved. The FEMA Clomer approval letter is expected within the next 2 weeks. Railroad agreements are being finalized. And then the DWR construction permit was submitted in July of 2023. Right now, the Western Cass FIS is tentatively expected to become effective in 2025. So we would like to get this project moving forward so that it can be constructed and we can work with FEMA to change that floodplain. That's all I had for
Anything
the
further? Commissioner Shirley.
Thank you. So you've been working on this for quite a while. Just curious, and this is for either one of you, why are we doing a quick take versus an eminent domain on this?
Good question, Commissioner Sherling. The process of using quick take is to assure when the property rights will be acquired, which then provides for the contracting surety to make sure that the project can go out for bid and we can get a bid in time to get this work done in time for the 2025 remapping. And the reason that we didn't do that earlier in the process is, number one, is there's some additional design that has been happening, iterations of this over the course of time. And actually part of that is Mr. Steinweg, where he had asked multiple times as to whether this project could shift alignment slightly. And there's been an analysis of that. Ultimately, it's designed where the engineers believe that it is most efficient and most effective and most cost effective as well. The goal of having immediate possession of the right of way is to not acquire the right of way through negotiation and then let it sit for a year, maybe 2 years. If we don't go through this process, there's a high likelihood that it would take 18 plus months to make its way through the court system, ultimately have a jury trial, have an award, and then pay that award. And only until then would there be the ability to actually put this out for bid and start the work. So we agree it's been ongoing for quite some time, but now is the time with funding available, with permits acquired, and the other right-of-way acquired to move forward with this project.
Thank you.
Any other questions, commissioners? Anything further to add? Chairman Peterson, it's been quite some time since we have been before you to request authorization for immediate possession. I do want to walk the commission through the packet that has been provided, and hopefully all of you have that. The main thing I would point you to is pages 4 and 5, and remind the commission that the sole purpose of the county commission in these types of actions is to make sure that the process for negotiation has been completed. That process for negotiation comes from 6116.109. That is a relatively new process that was put in place within the past decade, and it requires a lot of box checking. And to make that the process of confirming that all of those boxes are checked easier for the commission, we have provided on pages 4 and 5 of the packet for an identification of what those boxes are and allow you to go ahead and check those. So the first thing that needs to happen is that there needs to be informal negotiations. There have been informal negotiations for quite some time. You will notice in the packet that the initial offer, starting on page 6, and I believe also
what was sent not only to Mr. Steinweg, but there was also, I believe, 2 of his nieces that were at one point involved in the ownership of this property. The property has now completed the probate process, and the property that's necessary for the levy is in the sole ownership of Mr. Steinweg. But throughout that process from 2003, then the negotiations really pick up in approximately March or right around spring of 2024. Then the negotiations continued from that point. We did get settlements and voluntary acquisitions with some of the neighbors. I'm sure all those neighbors are aware of what those were. The negotiations continued. Unfortunately, at this point, we have a valuation dispute with the landowner. And that valuation dispute is what the eminent domain process through the courts is designed to fix or to resolve. At that point, the just compensation will be set by the court system after the landowner gets to provide their evidence and the Water Resource District gets to provide their evidence. I will note that Mr. Steinweg is, I believe, on the call today, and he can provide context also of the negotiation process. The next step after that is that the Water Resource District must send an invite to meet with the landowner. Mr. Steinweg has appeared through Teams at multiple meetings of the Maple River Water Resource District, and unfortunately, we still have not yet reached an agreement as to price. Each of these notices have to be sent to Mr. Steinweg through certified mail, return receipt requested. We provided proof to the commission that they were in fact sent, and that and Mr. Steinweg signed the green card, the confirmation that the U.S. Postal Service has for that. The next step after an invitation to a meeting is to provide a notice of intent to take possession. That was also sent to Mr. Steinweg, and he also signed the green card for that. We then made a request to the county commission to set today's meeting. You guys did that, and we worked with Mr. Wilson to make sure that the notice of today's meeting was sent to Mr. Steinweg. That was sent. He has the notice. He is appearing through my Teams today. So the final steps that are required by the statute is for the Water Resource District to confirm that they provided contact information for the Water Resource District with each written piece of contact or communications with the landowner, which they did. They also need to provide confirmation that the project timeline was included in written communications, which happened. And then also the final one is that there has been no threat of quick take throughout this process. It's a strange situation, but in statute where we're going through the quick take process, but you can't tell them that you're going through quick take. So there has been a certification submitted to the county commission by Commissioner Olson, and also the land agent Levi Hansen to indicate that there has been no threat up until this point. So with that, the next step would be after the county commission has confirmed that all of those steps have been taken, you would provide authority for the Maple River Water Resource District to move forward with filing their quick take eminent domain action. We would do that in relatively short order. The possession of the right-of-way would transfer, but the matter of just compensation, how much is actually owed to the landowner, would be something that would be determined by the courts through a full eminent domain process, where both sides would get to provide their evidence that they believe is necessary to provide the context of what their demand for just compensation would be. The role of the Cass County Commission is not to get involved or mediate a negotiation. This isn't a situation where you guys need to sit up there and say what the Maple River Water Resource District offered was not enough, or what the landowner is asking for is too much. Instead, the only purpose of today is to make sure that all of the boxes have been checked with respect to the process for the negotiation process set forth in statute. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. If not, I'm sure that Mr. Steinweg would appreciate the opportunity to provide his context as well.
Commissioners, any questions? Any questions? Anything further, sir?
For me.
Outstanding. Mr. Steinweg, I see you're online. I want to give you a chance to speak at us if you so choose. You don't have to if you don't want to. Don't feel compelled to, or if you've got a representative on your behalf, that's okay too. But you have the podium, sir.
Okay, thank you. Everything that has been said so far about this, I believe, is accurate. I don't have any dispute with that at all. The conversation has always been where I've been in the position of, we all value our land differently, and that's where I'm at. And it was accurate to say the only disagreement we've had is on the actual the price of the land per acre. The things we have agreed on before is the use of it, and I think I'd like to give compliments to More Engineering in hearing every possible alternative I have to not take my land or not take so much of my land. I'm fighting for my land because I feel like North Dakota farmland is very valuable, and it will be more valuable in the future, in future generations, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing. It's really not the dollar amount. So, and the other thing I'd like to add is, and I talked to Levi earlier today, is that if it helps any, and I guess I'm agreeing with the process, I'm not fighting the process, but if it helps any, I will be back there for another reason. I will be back there for about 4 or 5 days at the end of August. Be happy to meet with anybody, to do anything, whatever, and I left that open to Levi, and he said, yeah, he'd like to get together and chat, just meet each other. And the other thing is on, what was it? I'm sorry. Like I said at the last Maple River District resource meeting, was that if at all possible, and Kurt Lindsay, who's been on top of the situation 100%, his opinion, and that's what I was asking for, is that the land that you are due to acquire, that it still can be used for taking the crops that are planted there now, which is corn. So I guess what I'm asking is still, can I use that land? Can Mike get the crops off of it this year? And I asked him about the timetable, and he says Thanksgiving at the latest. So if that can be met, I would appreciate it. I know that's really not legally binding one way or the other, and I'm not going to push it, but that's a request that I have. That's just a personal request, that land is still available to take the crop off before Thanksgiving. And I think that's all I have. I won't take any more of your time. If you have any comments to that, then that'd be great too. But that's all I have.
Outstanding, sir. Commissioners, any questions for our owner? Any questions for our owner? I think regarding timeline, it would serve you best to talk. And I'm just tickled pink that your communication has been so good and that you're so positive regarding this. And again, math is an okay thing to disagree on, and that's perfectly acceptable to me, that you want to go forth and figure out what's best for you as well. So I'm presuming communications have been and will remain open. I'm looking at my team members here in the audience. I see nodding heads. All right. Thank you, sir, for your time. Anything further to add, Mr. Steinweg?
No, I've got another conversation with Levi. I want some more details of this, in other words, the map. You've sent me all of the literature that you talked about and the notifications, but I would like to have a map so I can talk about that, or show Mike, the renter, where this land is going to be, that is going to be acquired. So he has a good idea, and just work together on that. That's all.
I'm seeing nodding heads regarding that concern too, sir.
Okay. That's all I have.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
You.
Commissioners, any
Thank
questions
you.
for our owner? If not, Commissioner Breitling, please.
I move to authorize the Maple River Water Resource District to utilize quick take eminent domain under section 61-16.1-09, parens 2, closed parens, of the North Dakota Century Code to acquire right-of-way easement and temporary easement rights as necessary to accommodate the Davenport Flood Risk Reduction Project.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? And again, and you, my team members here know that, my commission knows that. As always, just because we're making this motion doesn't mean negotiations stop, doesn't mean we suddenly stop talking to our owners. We all know this. So again, appreciate the openness and friendliness of our owner, and obviously the hard work and due diligence of our staff. Any other discussion, commissioners? Any other discussion? If not, let's do a roll call, please.
Commissioner Sherling,
Yes.
Commissioner Brightling,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan.
Yes. Motion passes. Anything further, sir?
Nothing for me, thank you.
Anything from the team? Good. Mr. Olson? Thank you, sir. All right, item 2 on our agenda, Fargo Property Tax Incentive, Kilborne Group. Mr. Gilmore, welcome, sir. Mr. Wilson, please, sir.
Mr. Chair, just a point of clarification. Mr. Gilmore contacted our office on Friday with a notation about the way this item was titled, and we responded to him to let him know that we would reflect that in the meeting minutes from today's meeting. And Mr. Gilmore, we appreciate your reach out.
Thank you. Just wanted to note first, this is not a request for TIF funding for Kilborne Group. This is a request from the city of Fargo to use TIF funds for the parking garage. About a year ago, you did agree to provide the what we were asking for is a 5-year TIF to Kilborne Group after the Renaissance zone expired. The county commission did approve that at this time. And at the meeting, if you'll look at the minutes from a year ago, you'll note that I said I would be back to discuss the parking garage at a later date, and now I'm back. The request is to use TIF funds, and it is our plan to use TIF funds to help finance this parking garage. It's been kind of extremely difficult to put the financing together, given construction costs are up and interest rates are up, and so how we're paying for this is there's going to be primarily almost 100% bonding and loans initially. We're working with the Bank of North Dakota, trying to get some low interest loans there, as well as be selling kind of TIF revenue bonds for this. These will all be paid back strictly through the parking fund revenue and TIF revenue. There'll be parking revenue net from the new parking garage. There'll be TIF revenue from this new tax increment financing district that includes this particular project and the area adjacent. And then there's also revenue from our other parking facilities as those get paid for. So what we're asking for here is we're not sure if the TIF will run. It can run up to 25 years. We're looking at a bonding that we maybe only run 20 years. So if once debt is paid, if it's paid after 20 years, it would end at that point. As I look at our financing, it's this first 10 years of operation is when we're struggling to find every dollar we can. And so that's probably our greatest need. And we're hopeful that you'll participate for this initial 13-year term. 3 years of that being the year that started now, when we're either not started or we're under construction, and then an additional 10 years after that. And so I'm requesting that you either participate in the full year, whether that's a 20 or 25 year, but hopefully at least that first 13 years where our financing is so tight. I'd be happy to answer any question, but maybe just a quick background. This will be a parking garage that will serve this part of the area, so kind of the southern part of downtown. There'll be 168 apartments that will use the parking. There'll be a community theater. At that community theater, we have agreed for both the old Broadway, that entertainment area, and the community theater, there will be no charge for parking in the evenings or on weekends. And so that was really important for the theater to decide to stay in the downtown. They wanted their patrons to be able to have free parking. Theater staff will pay for their parking, during the daytime, as will other people, either hourly or monthly. So Again, the financing was real struggle to get this together. I'm not sure our finance director has it completely figured out yet, but we're kind of looking for every dollar we can, and we'd really like you to be a partner on this project from the city's perspective. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Gilmore. Questions, commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, maybe Mr. Gilmore, can you provide also any updates on the project itself, on any other tax incentives on the project, Avery project?
The Avery itself will receive a 5-year Renaissance Zone property tax exemption, followed by the 5-year TIF note that will cover certain costs that they're undertaking. The theater itself qualifies for the 5-year Renaissance Zone, although the community theater, like the Plains Art Museum and the Fargo Theater, paid a much lower property tax rate than regular commercial buildings. I think their rate is based on just the cost of fire protection, and it's maybe 10%. I see my city assessor back here. About 8% of the normal rate for the community theaters throughout the life while they're there.
So then just to clarify that the Avery project, the community theater, the RZ credits and the TIF all expire in 2036?
They would, the theater does not receive any of the TIF refund. It would just be the Avery building. The theater will kind of have a zero property taxes for the first 5 years under the Renaissance Zone, and then begin to pay that 8% level in year 6 after completion. They both pay some property taxes while it's under construction, because the exemptions don't begin until it's completed.
Commissioner Grinberg, anything further?
Not at this time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Commissioners, other questions? Concerns or discussion? I guess maybe while you're thinking, I can share my thoughts. I think that I can appreciate sort of the struggles that you're having to go through, and obviously we supported this project in and of itself, meaning the private development, and I think that you were here for that as well, and I think I was pretty vocal and supportive of that. We start talking about things that last 25 years to the point where they don't ever come to fruition. I mean, you've got a parking ramp downtown, I think, that didn't pay taxes for 38 or 39, something like that. The one between the two bank buildings.
I think it was a little over 20.
Okay. I think it was more than that, but regardless.
I mean, it was owned by the city. It never paid property tax.
Yeah. So I think that we've got a lot of needs, and like I've said to you sort of in closed door meetings, the city of Fargo apparently doesn't have as many needs as the county does. We're building a jail. We're having to staff that jail in particular. That's going to be, as I look to the taxpayers in this room right now, those of you in Cass County, there will be a substantive increase in your taxes because of our jail. We have needs, and I appreciate what our friends in the development community are trying to do, and I'm grateful for them. I really struggle, like I said, we get 25 years of people paying no taxes. I think you could look at almost any structure, and if you took parking out, suddenly projects can evolve to some degree. The struggle I've always had is that if, let's say, the developer had to provide parking on their own, what would the project look like? We really don't know that all the time. And I've jokingly said, somewhat tongue-in-cheek anyway, I've said, a $20 million project with free parking turns into a $24 million project or a $22 million project. It doesn't turn into a $50 million project. And you and I can disagree on that, and that's okay. I think that we have a lot of developers who don't have these incentives. And my greatest fear is something like we're happening down in Epic, right? Where we had a developer that approached us to build them a parking ramp and not have taxes on their hotel. And now we're looking at a developer that's struggling to maintain their fiscal viability. Never mind that circumstance. I think that's unique, and luckily that's unique. But in the same breath, we have people that invest and don't want to pay their fair share. And we have needs. I think the city of Fargo has needs. And we can't go for 25 years and not have people pay. So I'm supportive because of the predicament you've sort of put yourselves in as a city commission, as a planning director, that I think if we said no to this, I don't know where this money would come from. Maybe that's a question for you. So if we say no, who pays the 64, 65, 66, 76, 84, 86, 88, 90, $91,000 for this?
We would borrow it and then push out the payments 20 years from now. I mean, I think that's what would likely happen. I mean, I understand your concern about waiting that long, but when you look at downtown Fargo and what's happened with these other incentives, you know, the value of the downtown, when you first did your Renaissance Zone project, 1999 was around 200 million. Today, or this tax year, over 700 million in value is already paying property taxes. By the time all these expire, we'll be at 1.1 billion, and it's going up especially with this project. So, you know, when Fargo looks at what's come on downtown, if we didn't have that development, our property taxes would be 4% higher. Yours would be probably a couple percent higher in order to make up what's happened with those downtown and if so. I understand the reluctance to go out 25 years. That's why I wrote that option for could you at least help us with 13 years while we're in this very short-term problem. When we get beyond 13 years, you know, then it's it'd be nice to have the money, but if it's not there, the parking fund can, I think, struggle along for the next 10 years beyond that.
And with sincerity, I appreciate your acknowledgement of probably what was going to happen today and that alternate proposal. So well done. Kudos to you and your team. Commissioners, other discussion, thoughts?
Mr. Chairman, if you're ready for motion, I'd move the 13 years.
There is a motion on the floor. Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Capitan?
Aye.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes, motion passes.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate your time, Mr. Gilmore. Item 3, reconvening our Board of Equalization. Mr. Fakazi, you want to lead us off, please?
Absolutely. Drop this off of Taylor here.
She gave you that so you can just sit there.
I wouldn't have minded that. I'd be all right with that. So, all right. Well, thank you, Chairman Peterson, members of the council. Today, we're just reconvening the meeting from the last commission, and I'll be going over my results from the appeals that happened. You can see in the packet. Actually, I apologize. Let me get this set up on the screen so I can share it. It's going to be a lot easier if I'm kind of walking through it here.
Very nice here. Commissioners are pulling up the packet as well. So you've got time, Mr. Fakazi.
All right, there we go. Must be this one. I'm gonna pop down to page 105. Oh, went a little far. There we go. All right. All right to go.
I believe we're good to go, Mr. Fakazi. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, as you can see here, these are the various people or groups that appealed. So for each individual one, we looked at sales. We looked at the income that was provided by a lot of these groups. And we just looked at the costs and similar competing properties. Pretty much the same methodology took place for every review. That's just how we go about it. And for each individual one, the city provided me a write-up that I reviewed in detail. And just to verify that I guess my job at this point is just to make sure I feel their result and their recommendation is a fair and equitable representation of what we'd see in the market if they were to sell these properties. So a lot of information that we had to go over from this time, as you remember from the previous packet.
365 megs.
Yep, and there's more added to that. So, but no, I really appreciate the staff's time from the City of Fargo and the City of West Fargo, as well as my own staff. It's a lot of work we went through in a short period of time, but we put a lot of time into this. So I'll start with the Sterling properties. For each one, I have my write-up that's provided, but I won't go over the same thing each time. It was just we looked at it the same way for all these properties. For the larger group ones like Sterling, since they had probably 60 some apartments that were appealed over, I think it was 23 or 25 properties. If there's one that you saw in there that you'd individually like to pull down, feel free to, and I can comment on those individually. But for the Sterling ones, this was kind of the same methodology. After reviewing everything, we just received that 1 year income that they're just kind of saying we're just not getting what we'd think this year. The expenses are going up, but both cities, West Fargo and Fargo, where these appeals exist, we'll be able to provide plenty of sales information supporting all their values. So I did provide a recommendation for each one. on here. And this is, I should state too, all these ones were actually reviewed in detail at the local level, and there were adjustments made by their city assessors already. So some did have adjustments, some didn't. That's all referenced in my recommendation packet. So I would just be making a motion to approve those recommendations submitted by the city assessors for Sterling properties.
Just for Sterling. Is there discussion, questions, a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded, Sterling be approved as presented, and I want to get on the record public gratitude for this ownership group for being so open with us. I mean, they literally, just so the public at large knows, they disclosed everything.
Yeah.
And that's not always the case. In fact, it's almost the opposite of that. And sometimes
Yep.
what they'll do is they'll provide us one window of time like this. I had a bad week. Can you lower my valuation by 50%? Sterling's the exact opposite of that. So kudos to them for being so open for, again, a developer of this scale, being so publicly friendly.
Yeah, and this is just a small portion of their
Yep.
portfolio. And just kind of go on what you said there, one thing that we'd advise them going forward is let's have these discussions in December as we get closer in the year. Give both the city staff and my staff a little bit more time to kind of review this in more detail and just have those discussions, because I think as we educate them on some of the mass appraisal standards, which differ from what they might be looking at from, just financing issues that they're running into or what they're seeing through bank lending, it might allow us to kind of avoid some of this at this time of year in the rush.
Stuff. All right, we have a motion on the floor for Sterling. Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, a roll call, please.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan? Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Commissioner Brightling?
Yes.
Motion passes. PetSmart.
Yep, PetSmart, kind of same thing. They've provided a singular cost approach and some income information, but it just, a lot of times when they're using a cost approach from a nationwide firm, it's not calibrated to our local model, and that really showed in what they presented today, or what they presented in their argument. So we'd like to support the city of Fargo's recommended value.
Is there a motion for the PetSmart property?
Move to approve.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Brightling?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan?
Yes.
Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Motion passes. Mr. Fracassi, now thinking out loud here, would be any objection from the board if we just proceeded down the line and made a motion at the end rather than taking them individually?
I'm fine with that.
Without objection? All right, Delta.
Okay, so just to clarify, not asking for an individual recommendation right now, just say a little bit about the property and then move on.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So this one, if you remember from last year, they presented some cost information. They presented that exact same data with the same date from the previous year. So it's all outdated information that was supplied, kind of a copy and paste. And they asked for a reduced land value without any support as to why. Usually if we see somebody requesting a land reduction, we'd like to see some sales to support that, but this is just kind of the same information as last year, and both cities had more than enough support on this. I do have them all listed here, and just I would like to note, more for Taylor's record, the one at 1902 45th Street, we did find out was not appealed locally. So because of that, that would not be able to continue if they wish to go to the state board.
So that gets struck out of this then?
That would be struck. Well, we'll still make a recommendation today, but they would not be able to continue forward, only the other
That's
ones.
yeah.
Yep,
Okay,
just wanted to make that clear.
perfect. And this is all,
All the holiday ones.
yeah, if you're clicking around, commissioners, this is all hot linked in our PDF. Thank you for that. Make that easy. Let's go to Enclave, please.
Yep. All right. On to Enclave. So Enclave appealed quite a few various properties throughout their area. Again, these weren't appealed locally. This is their only part of the appeal process, unless they would wish to continue through an abatement process. We did make two recommended changes. That was to the Burger King on University. Basically, myself and James Haley from the city of Fargo reviewed that in detail, and looked like there was some vandalism, broken windows, and it was a lot of sitting water when we were in there, and water was coming through the roof. So appropriate reduction was made for that, and they did feel that on one of their industrial areas, they were coming a little high on that value, and that was showed through the sales they provided. So they did make a slight adjustment to that one, and that's all included in the recommendations here.
Is that their med park or which one?
That was not, it's called, no, the Med Park, they had more than enough support for. This was called Variant. It's just a giant industrial buildings out there.
Oh, there it is. Variant
Yep.
1, got it. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, moving on down.
Let's go to property tax resource. And that's if you have a hard copy, page 73.
Okay. So, property tax resources in the city of West Fargo, they were appealing some of their industrial properties. In the city of Fargo, they were appealing to office properties. The ones in West Fargo, they actually were asking for valuations at or below what they paid for it back in 2015. They provided some income analysis. A lot of these income things come down to an argument on what's the cap, because that's going to be such a huge influence on it. My opinion, they're quite a bit away from what we're seeing locally, using a 10% cap's what they use, and then they load it with the real estate taxes, making an 11.4% cap rate. Through what we've seen in our market on industrial, we're seeing more of that 5-6%. So quite a bit less, and that's gonna make a huge difference if someone's putting together an income analysis for an appeal. Regardless of that though, we have sales to back it, and that's seen through all these properties in both the industrial market and the office market. So didn't see any changes made on any of those.
Any questions, commissioners?
Okay.
Or property tax, sorry. Amundsen, please.
Okay, Mr. Amundsen, we reviewed his property with staff from the city of Fargo. Basically, I know our staff just had a conversation with him afterwards last week, just kind of said we're going to provide him some sales. I can't speak 100% for him. He seemed to be understanding. He was just kind of concerned why it went up 21% from what he purchased it for. And that's what we provided him, just kind of say, this is what's going on in the market. And we had, since that 2018 sale, or 2019, I think it sold, you know, you had a couple years there where you probably hit that in just 2 years. So, and then add on the rest of the years. So we did provide him that sales information, and he seemed fine with what we sent over. So no change on that one.
Any questions on Amundsen? All right, next one is possibly the best name ever. Hey, look, a squirrel revocable trust.
Yeah, the Hey Look a Squirrel Revocable Trust. We reached out to him, left a message, haven't been able to hear back. We're not going to recommend a change on something we couldn't go through, so no change in that one.
So, but you did try to contact them, notice no correspondence.
We did, no correspondence after we left messages.
Okay, commissioners, any questions on this item? All right, Rasmussen, please.
Yep, Mr. Rasmussen, I went through his property with a member of my staff, met him out there. Actually had a really good discussion on everything, just kind of, but he didn't really want us inside the property, so I can't make any internal analysis on it. I could definitely tell there's some deferred maintenance to the exterior, but this really wasn't so much when I was out meeting with him. It didn't feel like it was as much a valuation as what should be exempt on his property. And he was asking, so I guess just to clarify, he's on about, I think 14 acres, and he has 1.45 allocated as residential land. He wanted us to remove half acre of that, which is pole barns on, to have it exempt. And that's just, it's my understanding that these boundaries for what's the residential portion of these sites was drawn out, submitted to our GIS and ran across at the township level, and they approved those. So I see no reason to change that here. Also, without seeing the interior, it's really hard for me to make a judgment on what the inside looks like, but through discussion with them, it sounded like the inside might have been a little better than the outside. So.
Commissioners, questions on Rasmussen? If not, Gibson, please.
Okay, Mr. Gibson, this is the one that was kind of a vacant farmstead. It was previously used for farm labor housing, but it was, he did submit pictures to us. I wasn't able to go inside of it, but I saw enough internally and through discussion. This is a pretty easy one to clean up actually for us. When we see these, we have a process in place on how we handle properties that are basically tear downs listed as is. And we've actually have some recent sales that we were able to extract good data on and put a process in place. We followed that same procedure for this. Did land a little bit above his sale price, but again, this wasn't an arm's length transaction. It wasn't listed in the open market at all. It was more just kind of a discussion between the seller and the buyer. They knew each other, and they came across at $85,000. He's fine with the 97.4. Obviously, he'd like a little lower, but I mean, he's happy that it was reviewed and closer to what he feels would be the value. I honestly, if I think he had a realtor list this, even with the condition of the house, if it would have gone so everybody could have seen, everybody would have had the opportunity, I think we would have had probably $100,000 or $110,000 sale price, no problem on this. So,
Any questions on Gibson? Any questions? Capon,
this was kind of the same situation. If you remember, he was asking at the board to exempt 3 of his buildings and move 8. I think he wanted 12 acres listed as ag with some of that listed as pasture. I did provide some information, pictures and all that, but same situation as Howard's. I don't feel we should make arbitrary decision just to do this unless it's done at a township level, or for that matter, probably a county level, just to make sure it's done equitably throughout our jurisdiction. Because of that, I actually came in at a higher value, but we can't put it on at this time due to timing. So I feel his value 287.1 was absolutely supported. And just with so many like res and ag ones popping up where you have dual classification, this is one of the reasons too why we land so far behind on rural sales, because you got you might be valuing $1,300 an acre on the ag portion. Well, we'll never hit that in the market because they're probably paying 10 an acre, but that's just a product of how our state's set up for valuations. So just so everybody's aware, that's kind of why we do land a little lighter on some of our rural sales.
So I think there should be a dialogue over time, especially with a couple new commissioners showing up here in December regarding the formula that you and I and Mr. Wilson discussed and how we got there.
Yeah.
Mr. Sherlin, you know this as a realtor, but the state sort of lets people play a little bit. And again, this is not for topic for today, but I think we should have this when we have a less busy meeting. It may be prudent to get everyone up to speed. And like I said, when you got 2 new faces showing up here, I think it's more than prudent to educate them as to what's actually happening and sort of the nuance and lack of formality we have. I think that's something to be resolved.
Yeah, might be something worth even at our township officials meeting, maybe just getting everybody involved there and how proper
input.
Procedure.
All right, commissioners, questions on Capon? Any questions on this item? Mr. Fragazi, what else we got? Anything?
That is it. So I would just, as we stated, if you just, I just ask that you approve the recommended values that I submitted for each of these. And we will send notifications to each owner that we haven't talked to. Even if we did talk to them, we'll send a certified notification of our outcome.
All right, well, thank you to you. Thank you to the team in Fargo, West Fargo, obviously the folks that are digging around and doing the work for us.
Yeah.
Appreciate your time, appreciate your work. And I know it's not easy all the time. We talk about something very personal like our homes, and our friends and neighbors don't always agree on valuation because that's a personal impact to their pocketbook. So appreciate you guys. We do need a motion for the remaining. We can either do them individually, commissioners, it's up to your will, individually or as a block of remaining. What are your wishes? Commissioner Sherling.
Thank you. I move to approve the recommended valuations by our tax assessor.
Is there a second, please? Second. Motion and second to approve the remaining, the recommended valuations by our assessment teams of the remaining properties have not been addressed previously. Is there any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan?
Motion passes. Mr. Fragazi, anything further before I close the meeting?
That's all I have. Thank you
All
very
right,
much.
anything from our partners? Good to go? All right, at this time, without objection, I will close the public hearing of the Board of Equalization. Thanks, Fragazi. Thank your team, too.
Yeah, no problem. We'll do.
All right. Item 4 on our agenda, Comprehensive Growth Plan, Innovate 2028. EDC Chamber, thank you for your patience. You're learning all about taxation and valuation. What more fun things, huh? It's kind of like a party
No test.
without the booze.
Is that a party?
There might be vodka in here too, but we don't know that.
Well, thank you, Chairman Peterson and commissioners, for giving Shannon and I an opportunity to provide a little bit of an update and take any questions that you have. It's probably about 5-6 weeks ago, I think we stood in front of all of you. At that time, we shared that we were in the process of forming a new partnership around a strategy and a plan for the region focused on business development, workforce development, public policy, and data and analytics that go to support that. At that time, that plan was being tested with about 70 leaders in the region, both public and private sector. There was feedback back to our team and our leadership that both Shannon and I took forward and have been able to condense down into a very strong case statement. I want to thank Commissioners Grinberg and Peterson, obviously, for their service on the EDC board and working with us as leaders along with the private sector on all of this. Happy to say that we'll be presenting to you for your budget hearings next month a proposal that will include that case statement and a request of support and investment along with the private sector on this campaign. I'm really excited. I'll let Shannon speak for herself about this partnership and where we've taken it just since the start of the year. And really excited to have the opportunity to have a conversation with you public next month, but also I know we're setting up an opportunity to do some one-on-ones just to make sure we're answering your questions as commissioners and obviously working with Mr. Wilson and the staff. So Shannon.
Yeah, so again, thanks for the opportunity to be here. This is a really major opportunity, a major initiative for the two organizations to come together. I think the piece that I would stress is that from the private sector, it's being very well received, the plan. There is a lot of interest in making sure that this community stays globally competitive, especially in the fact that we've got a lot of assets here. How do we protect those assets and continue to allow them to grow? And so we are excited about this opportunity. I'd also say that our teams have also really been coming together to synergize around how do we leverage the assets of the two organizations to give a better outcome and return on investment from both public sector investors, but also our private sector investors. We fully believe that there will be private sector support to match the public sector investment as well as we go forward with this, and looking forward to presenting to you in a more formalized fashion for next month's budget hearing meeting.
And I think lastly, I think last week was probably a really good example of what we're starting to see with the Week of Agriculture and Ag Tech, when we saw, involved in the Chamber's Ag Summit, Grand Farm opening its new innovation shop, various delegations from around the world in here meeting with our teams and elected leaders and other business leaders. So we're really excited to see this plan really coalesce around areas where we have strength, and we're already seeing that. And it's sort of like with the NSF Engines Farms announcement last year. NSF is committing resources to this region because it just makes sense, because we already have strengths and a lot of good partnerships. And I think us as a region having even more control over our own destiny and future, we see this growth plan as really strategic to making that happen. So I'd love to take any questions that you have, and obviously we'll come to you with a lot more detail at the end of July as we talk through the budget process.
Outstanding. Commissioners, any questions for our team? Commissioner Grinberg.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Nice job, Shannon and Joe. Sorry I couldn't be there today. I'm in Minot, North Dakota. Just a little added commentary, I guess. Commissioners, you may recall last July in our budget process, we had a gentleman from Sioux Falls share Forward Sioux Falls campaign as a best practice, if you will, from the region. And ultimately, our decision was to put some funding out for the potential of a comprehensive plan between the Chamber and EDC. Commend Joe and Shannon for making that happen, and the boards of the organizations come a long way since last July. And both Joe and Shannon's point, eager to hear more and learn more at our July budget process. I asked Taylor to send everyone here a few moments ago the presentation from Sioux Falls last year, and in particular, pages 5 and 6, I think hit to the, obviously, some of the decisions we make at the county on return on investment and goals. And as the case statement for our project comes forward, I'm anxious to see how that case statement outlines goals and objectives with ROI for our tax base. Commissioner Peterson, you mentioned the challenge we have funding with the new jail opening up. I think it's incumbent on us as commissioners to really make prudent decisions, obviously, for county taxpayer funding, also about the return on investment to benefit Cass County. And I believe this comprehensive growth plan done right will have significant benefits. So just a few comments. Really appreciate Shannon and Joe coming in and look forward to that more granular detail of a case statement next month.
And you'll see when we come in front of you next month, you'll see similar metrics that will be reflected to this or this region, but we will have specific outcomes and metrics in all three of the major categories so that we're able to measure the success and really be able to identify the return on investment for us.
Commissioners, any further questions? Well, thank you both for what you're doing. Appreciate it. And I'll reiterate or reinforce what Commissioner Grinberg said. Obviously, I think there's a whole lot of winning we have to do here. And we have such an ability and such a blessing to be in the situation we're in. For all the struggles we're having, you look around the United States, we're really not doing so bad. So leaping off on what's been already created and perpetuating the goodwill forward, I think will serve us well in the coming years. So thank you both. Thanks, obviously, to your team. Got some peeps around here that are hanging out in the back too. Appreciate you guys. And thanks for your time.
Thank you.
This was a non-action item, commissioners. Next item on our agenda, I already see the judge pushing forward, Veterans Treatment Court. Judge Cleveland, welcome again.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson and commissioners, or Chairman Peterson, commissioners.
It's whatever, it's fine.
There you go. I'm Connie Cleveland, one of the district judges in the East Central Judicial District. I was elected in 2022 and serve with 10 other judges in this jurisdiction, which serves Cass, Trail, and Steele. On May 6, 2024, I appeared before this commission to provide information, and today I return to ask you to support the Veterans Treatment Court project for the East Central Judicial District. I'm honored today to ask this commission to pass a resolution of support for the Veterans Treatment Court project in the East Central Judicial District. And I wanted to reiterate or remind or hopefully go over the three reasons that I chose to appear before the commission regarding the Veterans Treatment Court project. Number one, because constituents and folks working with veterans have approached this body several times in the past 10 years, requesting that this commission spearhead or use its power to persuade others to establish a Veterans Treatment Court, this body was aware of that need, but nothing took hold. And there were a lot of reasons for that, which were articulated in my first presentation. In my presentation on May 6, 2024, I articulated what has changed, what data had been collected that wasn't available during some of the first conversations, and that there is now a path forward, with two of the judges taking the lead on shepherding this idea forward. And specifically, Judge Hayden is in the back of the courtroom. She has prior military service and has agreed to work with me to make the court sustainable and to be the successor when and if, to be support as well as a successor and to preside over that court. Because the idea has been repeatedly brought up here, it seemed to make sense to update the commission on changes. And in addition to collecting data, I've conferred with judges who have previously presided over drug courts in other jurisdictions and have gone on to establish veterans treatment courts, not just in Grand Forks, but in Colorado, Wisconsin, Alabama, and Michigan. I am convinced that the East Central Judicial District has the services and the numbers of individuals who need this type of a court to warrant a veterans treatment court here. These courts meet a need for a population that is unique through their design and for a population that is unique. Secondly, community awareness of efforts that are being made to meet a need is imperative. Sharing information about the project and the potential benefit to the county through savings that should be realized by lowering recidivism is something I believe this body is interested in and should be aware of. A success for a treatment court is defined by getting individuals healthy and stable and out of the cycle that takes them back into court involvement through additional criminal charges. How is this accomplished? As I've indicated, by addressing the underlying issues through treatment for mental health issues, chemical usage, providing housing support, addressing trauma, and reconnecting to community of support, and the services that these individuals have earned as a result of providing service to our country through their military service. This is accomplished through a probationary process, and the Veterans Treatment Court is presided over by a judge who is uniquely assisting individuals as they are guided through the steps of reestablishing those connections. The dollars then that are realized and measured by fewer days in jail, fewer repeat cases to prosecute for the state's attorney, and less involvement by law enforcement. As you know, if we continue to do the same things, the same outcomes will be expected, and that would be increase for jail beds, more prosecutors, more law enforcement individuals to staff the jail. This is a project to make change. As Dr. Jill Baldwin, an expert researching veterans treatment courts from American University, stated to Ms. Hegvik and I when we met by Zoom on May 30th, so after coming to the court, there were some points that I think are imperative to this body's consideration. As Dr. Baldwin stated, based on her research since 2004. Anecdotally, we know veterans treatment courts work. Dr. Baldwin noted that just as with drug courts, randomized control trials are the gold standard for ascertaining the efficacy of treatment, and RTCs can demonstrate the superiority of new treatment over an existing standard treatment. That's what she does. She evaluates, much like A.J. Myers, who has studied our local drug courts. But as with drug courts, with veterans treatment courts, there will never be one best model, because jurisdictions, the services that are available, laws, and populations are different. So identifying the best aspects and cleaving to those best practices are the aim. But we need courts to evaluate. We've already missed 10 years of opportunity to be good until we can be better. Finally, one of the reasons I approached the commission or wanted to advise the commission of what changes had taken place, I was speaking with likely stakeholders. I've articulated in my memo that I sent to Mr. Wilson that we have the stakeholders that are necessary voicing support for this project. But the state's attorney identified a barrier, and specifically with regard to financial, and indicated that while the 3 drug courts that state's attorney currently participates in with volunteer participation from that office, that wouldn't be possible for a veterans treatment court. It will continue to be true for Judge Hayden and myself, but I want to address that and to let the court or let the commission know, consistent with my statements to that elected official, I wanted to advise the commission of the project, the possible financial requests, and provide information about what that might mean in a year or two. I believe I've answered all the questions posed in person and by email with this body. I've met with the subcommittee to provide additional information, and so today I circle back. If there is a request from the state's attorney for funding based on participation in coming years, I hope that I have given you sufficient information to weigh that request, and I certainly would return with additional support and information. The information that I provided was consistent with the current participation in drug courts by that office, as well as the current model in Grand Forks. At this point, I continue to welcome and invite participation from the state's attorney in Cass County, but that's a separate issue. And the state's attorney is still weighing whether that office wants to be involved. To be clear, the court is volunteering for this project. The Supreme Court and its subcommittee will determine whether this is warranted and whether the project should be included in the Supreme Court budget. Even if it is a budgeted item, Judge Hayden and I will participate as volunteers. I am not asking for additional space, for money, or any other resource from the Cass County Commission. The decision to participate with regard to the state's attorney is the state's attorney as an elected official alone. This project is moving forward, and 90% of the veterans that I anticipate will be served will come from Cass County. But the necessary stakeholders have voiced support. I am honored to speak on behalf of this project. I'm honored to have met individuals who have served our country and who are advocating for their brothers and sisters who have served and now suffer because of that service. I hope this body will take action on this request and support veterans and support recognition that the service of veterans sometimes results in people being broken. This is one way to actively respect that service and to honor that service by providing support. I'm available for questions. I wanted to point out Judge Hayden, as well as the Veteran Service Officer is here, and that Captain Frobrig provided numbers in order to provide statistics to this court. But I wanted to be as short as I could, considering the long agenda you had. If you have any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer them.
Questions for the judge? I guess, Judge, maybe while my team is thinking, the only thing I'm concerned about, so I was supportive of this before. I'm supportive of it now. I think you brought into us numbers that can somewhat validate, if not totally validate, the need for this. The concern is I think we're doing this backwards. To me, the state has to lead this. To me, the state has to appropriate funds accordingly and then push that down to us to react.
May I respond?
I'll be done in 2 seconds.
All right.
I'm perfectly fine to say, yep, I'm supportive of it. The problem is I can't quantify what that support is actually going to be or it's what's needed right now. Because they may come in, frankly, I'll be blunt as I can be, because you kind of know me well enough. They're sitting on billions of dollars, $19.2 billion appropriated last year. They're sitting on in excess of $300 million unappropriated right now that I'm aware of. That means it's probably going to be $360, $380 million of completely unappropriated funds. If the state district court, the state itself wanted to support this, they could write a check for it, allocate whatever resources we need to the state attorney's office, and frankly, put a building addition on here to take care of our veterans. And it wouldn't impact their pocketbook one bit, right? So I don't know what that support is. Again, philosophically, Judge, whatever you need, let me know. The problem is they've got to come from the top, because if simply me writing a letter or this commission writing a letter would change the way they do operationally things in Bismarck, I'd have been writing letters for the last 12 years. If they'd have just listened to me, we'd be a lot better off in a lot of different areas. That discussion aside, ego aside, soapbox aside, I'm with you, I'm with our veterans. You know, my whole family's military. If I can help, let me know, but I think we're doing it backwards. Connie, or Judge Cleveland, please.
That's okay. Thank you. I agree. I think when this was approached to the commission to say, help us do this, that was backwards. I have done it the reverse this way. This will be in the Supreme Court budget. The budgeting for all of the participants will be coming from the state, with the exception of the judges will be volunteering their time, but the coordinator, the trainer for the mentors, those will be paid for through the state budget for the Supreme Court. The volunteers, which are mentors, which are one of the different pieces, those are community volunteers. The prosecutor, there's been no commitment from Cass. We'll be moving forward because it's an East Central Judicial District project. And so it might cost Cass nothing, and Cass will have 90% of the benefit. The funding, as I've indicated, is different for this project than for the other drug courts, which comes through probation. This is coming through the Supreme Court. So the costs are for the mentor, or not for the mentor, excuse me, for the mentor trainer, for the coordinator. Those will be paid through the Supreme Court. We're not asking for space. We'll be dedicating whatever courtrooms we have. The judges are volunteering. The defense bar has signed on, has voiced support to volunteer or seek funding through the state. So when you're saying, what's the cost? I'm being very clear, nothing, especially if the state's attorney doesn't participate, and I have no reason to believe that that's going to change at this time. The invitation is open. I will return to this body if that is the case and there is a request for funding, but at this time, that doesn't appear to be going to happen. So the reason I'm asking this body is because you were asked before and told that this was something people wanted, and there was no way forward. Now there is. I'm not asking for money. I'm advising you what's happened, and I think that as a commission that could see that what's the measurement of success? Lower rates of recidivism. How does that help the county? Well, you're building a jail. One of the things that this would result in is fewer days in jail, fewer cases to prosecute, because these individuals, this isn't aimed at the individuals who are coming into the court for the first time. These are people who are on a wheel, coming back into our courts because they can't access services, they're damaged and need to address the underlying issue. So what does it cost to the county? At this point, nothing. And that won't change. I won't be able, that's nothing that I will change or the project will change. The only entity that will make the decision that that will change is an elected official that you have advising you. And this board can decide whether to support that or not. We're moving forward without that. So I think that in response to your question, I agree. And so that's why I went about it this way. But I didn't want to leave the Cass County Commission unaware of something that was happening in this jurisdiction that will benefit the county. In order to make you aware that perhaps at some later point, the state's attorney does choose to be involved because of the benefit to this county or for other reasons with regard to taking a policy stand with regard to this. Those are all appealing reasons, but it's not necessary. We're moving forward because there is sufficient support and I have sufficient individuals involved that are necessary.
Is there budget allocated right now through the state legislature? Will that be a new appropriation?
That would be a new appropriation, because we're steps.
Judge, that's my concern. I hope they see the vision that you have. I really do. I find my friends in Bismarck suspect at times, well-meaning or otherwise. I think it's incumbent upon I won't be in office, but that doesn't mean I go away. I think it would be incumbent upon us to educate our friends in Bismarck as to the validity of this and the need to support this, but that's my concern.
Thank you. With regard to would it be a new allocation? The State Court Administrator's Office has a program manager who is present, who is the manager of specialty courts for the Supreme Court. So that position already exists. The budgeting exists, the legislation was put in place, so this is the process to go through. What I'm asking for is the Commission's support because the process requires a petition to the Supreme Court to approve whether the court is created or not. That's the point that we're at. I pushed that back a little bit in order to make sure I came back to the Commission to fill in the blanks, to say this is the process. It is the Supreme Court has created a process for the jurisdictions to create individual courts. Bismarck is creating a mental health court to meet what they have assessed as their need. Grand Forks has a domestic violence court and veterans court as well as their drug courts because that's where they have spearheaded their need. There are 3, 1 juvenile, 2 adult, drug courts in Cass. This is identified as the need in Cass, partially because of the VA being here and the highest population being here of individuals who would be eligible. So that's the process that was created. And that's the legislation that is in place. That's why I'm going about it with the steps, because those steps have already been set out by statute.
Okay, thank you, Judge. Commissioner Grinberg, then Commissioner Capitan.
Thank you, Commissioner Peterson and Judge Cleveland. Thank you for your presentation. And again, I apologize I can't be in the room today. I was part of the subgroup that met with Judge Cleveland and got a little more granular in some of the information. But Commissioner Peterson, I'd like you, which I shared with Judge Cleveland, I'm trying to connect the dots on our working relationship with the judicial system, particularly when it comes to the legislature and the increasing costs that Cass County has. And so on one hand, I really understand the value if this is a successful program and there's really data and if it works. I mean, statewide in the Grand Forks area and the data, will it long-term produce results, which I hope it does. A question and another comment. You're asking us to pass a resolution. What does the resolution say? Because I cannot find a copy of a resolution. And that would be helpful for at least either it's verbalized or it's just a resolution of support. Help me understand what that resolution is supposed to say.
Thank you very much. I did include it in the memo to Mr. Wilson. My requested motion was that the Cass County Commission support the filing of a petition with the North Dakota Supreme Court's Interdisciplinary Committee on Specialized Dockets to establish a Veterans Court in the East Central Judicial District to serve court-involved veterans. That was the motion that I was asking be adopted.
Okay, so it's a motion, not a specific resolution. I think a resolution more of a full document. Well, again, it's what end do you start? And again, I want to be supportive, but I don't want to make any commitments on financial commitment from Cass County at this time. We can have, Ms. Hedvig talk more about that in her budget process, probably in July. We'd also have the option next year. As I'm looking at your requested motion, if there's a way to inject into that motion that Cass County, with this adoption of this motion, does not support any financial support at this time, I might be more comfortable.
Anything further, sir?
No, I would just make that comment.
Commissioner Capitan, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As all of you or most of you know, that I served on the Veterans and Military Affairs Committee on a national scale. And at our last meeting a week ago, I asked the question if there's veterans courts in other states. And the chairperson assured me that every state has a veterans court. In fact, 2 states, every county has one. Minnesota, every county has a veterans court. California, every county has a veterans court. And those are the only 2 states that she could verify that every county was involved in the veterans court. Because I told them this is being brought up in North Dakota, and only, to my knowledge, only Grand Forks is the only one that has one so far. So they said this is going to be an item on the agenda at the national conference, is the veterans court. So even though it's been stated here a couple of times already that there is no financial assistance right now being requested. It's just that the judge would like to have us to approve the filing of the petition to the Supreme Court. And I'm in favor of that. With that, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I would make a motion.
Is there a second, please?
A question?
Is there a second, please? Make a second, discuss.
It's a question as to the motion.
Yeah, I've got, a question about the motion.
Yeah.
Yes, sir, sorry.
Does that include Commissioner Grinberg's insertion of there's no financial obligation at this time?
Yes, that would include that.
Okay. Motion on the floor.
That's the question I had.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion?
Does Commissioner Grinberg have his hand up?
Commissioner Grimberg, is your hand still up, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you.
I'm listening.
One last ask. Any discussion on the motion? And again, Judge, if all we had to do was write a letter and change the minds of our friends in Bismarck, I'd be writing a lot of letters. So I'm happy to write this letter. Is there any other discussion on the motion? If not, let me do a roll call on this, please.
Commissioner Grinberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan,
Aye.
Commissioner Breitling,
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson,
Yes.
Commissioner Sherling.
Yes.
Motion passes. Judge, anything further for the commission?
Nothing, thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Best wishes. Good luck.
Thank you. I'll report back.
Thank you. Item 6 on our agenda, Kindred Comp Plan. Mr. Susi, there you are, my friend.
I know how to clear a room, I guess.
I always tell everyone, you guys can stay. We have elephants and clowns later. And dancing and music. All right, that's fine. Just go about your business.
Heard about 3 VSOs.
I don't doubt it. Mr. Susi, you have the floor, sir.
All right. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, the city of Kindred is working with the Fargo Moorhead Metropolitan Council of Governments to develop their comprehensive plan. First, I'd like to commend the city for thinking about developing their plan. It's a good tool to have for cities to grow in a smart, economical fashion. The cost of this study is about $100,000. And about 72,000 of that was covered for federal funds. And the local match is 28,000. And then the city is asking Cass County to share with that local cost at the rate of 50% or $14,000. And actually, the city of Kindred has just joined MetroCog here in May. They are now an associate member, so they're fairly new. So in the past, when the city of Horace, when they were fairly new as associate member, we did help the city of Horace with the Southwest Metro transportation plan, and we did cost share there. I guess I don't know the exact percentage, but I know we did help with that. County 15 does go right through Kindred, so Cass County does have kind of a stake in this, and I feel that it's important that we work together with the cities and the county to grow in a smart fashion. And also the city of Kindred on June 5th, their city council did approve their cost share at the time of 14,000, I guess. And Adam Alterberg is also here with the city, or with MetroCog, I guess, and if he's got any questions, or if you have some for me or for Adam or whoever else, I guess we're open for those questions.
Okay. Mr. Olberg, any comments? While I was walking up, Tom, the question I had for you was actually during our roundtable, and you answered it.
Okay.
Just to let the commissioners, as a general reminder, we have participated in this sort of a cost share before.
Yes.
And especially when we've got county highways plugging through someone's town. So, Mr. Altenberg, thoughts, please.
Sure. Adam Altenberg, Metropolitan Council of Governments. Thank you, commissioners. I believe Tom described this project pretty well. Going back, we had originally discussed doing this project as an in-house study with MetroCog. With the reallocation of $800,000 in federal funding in April, it was thought that we could do this as a consultant-led study. Doing that would increase the local share from approximately 11,300 to 28,000. The thought with that since it would be increasing the local share for the city and Kindred, splitting that with Cass County would be a good idea. Again, 2 of the 3 major corridors in and out of the city are county roads, County Road 15 and County Road 18, as well as some extraterritorial planning issues would be good to examine as part of the study as well. So having Cass County as a partner, it just makes a lot of sense. And as Tom mentioned before, back in 2014, when the city of Horace, when we were doing that Southwest Metro Transportation Plan, a lot of the benefits were going to the city of Horace at that time, but Cass County was a financial partner in that study as well. So.
All right, sir. Thank you. Commissioner Sherling.
Thank you. Is there anyone from the city of Kindred here or online? No?
No one online.
That would have been appropriate, just a comment. Usually I show up when I ask for funds, so just an observation I will share out loud. So what is in it for Kindred and for Cass County? What are we going to get out of this?
Good question. As Tom mentioned, the city of Kindred does not have a comprehensive plan right now. In the last 15 years, the city has grown by 300 people. It's thought that it would be good to get a comprehensive plan in place for the city. They have, one subdivision has developed about 100 new housing units in the last 15 years. There's 2 additional subdivisions that are looking to expand the city at this time. So thinking about what the city's goals, policies, strategies are going to be over the next 5, 10, 25 years, it'd be good to get that into place and to get that into a comprehensive plan for the city to use to guide some of the city's decisions down the road.
So will that include flood zones with the Western Cass? And I kind of speaking as chair of the Flood Sales Tax Committee. We were recently approached by a community that wanted us to lift them out of the floodplain. so that they could develop, which is not in compliance with our goals. But I'm just wondering, just thinking forward is, I'm not quite sure what Kindred's situation is. I know we're building a ring levee around Davenport. But do you look forward through those issues?
That's a good question. To my knowledge, there's properties that are south of State Highway 46 that are closer to the Cheyenne River. That is, those are areas that are impacted when the Cheyenne River is high, but they are not within city limits, to my understanding. Other areas that I know that are susceptible to flooding are areas to the north, kind of where the Cheyenne River goes to the north and east of the city. We'll probably talk about those issues as part of the comprehensive planning process. To my understanding, there are some berms. I don't know if they're within city limits or not. But does that answer your question?
Yeah.
I just encourage you to take that into consideration, as you're planning. And then also, I guess, I certainly support helping them out with this, but, let's be mindful of zoning, because that is something that really gets to be a heavy lift for those communities if they're not thinking, if they're not forward thinking on it. And then the county is asked to intervene and we really can't. And so, it's always better to think about zoning before somebody wants to do something that is going to get everybody up in arms. So just a couple of thoughts as you put together this plan.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, further discussion, questions, or a motion? Commissioner Sherling.
I would move to approve a budget adjustment of $14,000 to budget line item 2011-401-431-33.01 and authorize Cass County to participate in assisting the City of Kindred's local share to develop their comprehensive plan.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Moving second. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Capitan?
Aye.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Motion passes. Tom, anything else?
Nothing
All right.
further.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Item 7, dispatch construction contract. Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, I've talked to this board as a group once at your previous meeting, talked to a number of you as members of the RRDC Authority Board a number of times in addition to that, about the process up to this point to move forward the construction of a new 911 dispatch center through RRDC. We are at the point of your consideration of a agreement with a general contractor, a mechanical contractor, an electrical contractor for this project. The bids were opened on May 8th. We're coming up on really the time frame on when contracts need to be signed within the 45-day window of bid expirations, and the low bids appear to be responsible bidders and no reason not to consider approval of these agreements. A couple of things to think about as part of the joint powers agreement of the 5 entities that share in this dispatch center, Clay County, Cass County, and then the cities of West Fargo, Fargo, and Moorhead. Obviously, Cass County is putting up the majority of the funding, $10 million. Collectively, Moorhead and Clay putting up an additional $2.5 million. The remaining amount, just over $3.2 million, will be provided by Fargo and West Fargo to fund this project. To date, I know one of the Minnesota entities, I believe it is Clay County. I believe their payment has been received. The Moorhead payment is in process. I've been assured of that. The cities of Fargo and West Fargo are still coordinating exactly what percentage of that remaining amount they are going to pay between each other. But they have repeatedly acknowledged that that obligation, and I have been I've been told that that is not a question of understanding that obligation and following through on that obligation. There is a suggested motion for the low bid and successful contractors. I will just note that that includes one bid alternate with the electric contractor for an additional $68,000 for a video wall. And it also includes an amount for American engineering testing and just over $20,000 for some testing, soil testing that's required to get this project started. Total cost of the project at this point is just over $15.7 million. And I would stand by for your questions, or I should also note that these standard AIA contracts have been reviewed both by project architect, thank you, and
Architecturist, Mr. Wilson.
project architect, and the Cass County State's Attorney's Office, as well as Mr. Johnson, who is in the audience this afternoon and really has served as legal counsel for Triple RDC for a long time and really provided significant guidance. I will answer any additional questions. Otherwise, I'll stop talking and look for your action or questions.
Commissioner Sherling.
Thank you. So just to be super clear here, Mr. Johnson, as per our agreement, the city of West Fargo and Fargo are obligated to fund the remaining shortfall.
Yes, they are. According to the Joint Powers Agreement, they are. And I know Mr. Wilson's been in communication with representatives of the two cities, and you're the final determiner of whether those are suitable arrangements in place. And by approving this motion, I think, at least impliedly, if not directly, you're saying you're comfortable with the arrangements that have been communicated to Mr. Wilson.
Great. Well, with that, I would move the suggested motion.
Is there a second, please?
Happily.
Oh, thank you. Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson?
Yes.
Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan?
Aye.
Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Motion passes. Mr. Johnson, thank you for being here. And a long, tedious meeting, but your opinions are well needed, sir.
Well,
thank you.
Happy to be here.
Item 8. So last week, some stuff happened in finance. I think she's probably pretty bored. Nothing big. Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, this is a requested item by Commissioner Grinberg, and I very much appreciate the request, really to recognize Brandy Madriga and the finance office and the job that they did in conducting the primary election last week. And I think collectively we would, finance office and team, which certainly included Mr. Henderson and IT. We had members of Building and Grounds who were here evening. We had Taylor worked about a 14, 15-hour day. But overall, just wanted to recognize that it was really a very successful operation. I think we would have all liked to have seen maybe a little more turnout, a little more work for you to do in terms of volume, but fantastic job. And that's, you don't need to hear any more from me. That's a kickoff for all of you.
Sure. Mr. Grinberg, Vice Chair.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Mr. Wilson. Shortly after I was elected to the county commission, not more than a month, I started to get chatter, people chirping in my ear about our election process, how bumpy it is. It's not perfect. All kinds of, ideas or suggestions. Ms. Madriga led a number of meetings with some folks that had very strong will and strong opinions. Over the last year, a number of us were involved in a lot of those discussions. We had a joint meeting with all the district chairs and planning and kind of repurposing our election process. And by all accounts, those people were chirping in my ear, called me, were very pleased. And so I just thought it was important to recognize the hard work and the persistence to address some of the folks' concerns in our county and moving forward with future elections. Well done.
Thank you, Commissioner. Well done indeed. Those same little birds were chirping at me, my friend, from stem to stern. And then, but those same birds were before Ms. Madriga's stat as well. It's just same people, and God bless them. I'm glad they're here, glad they're participating. I do agree. I wish more than 20% of the folks would have shown up. Mr. Henderson, you have 2 seconds real quick. I wanted to share a data point that you shared with me prior. So obviously, election integrity is of the paramount, and we have our protections in place. Mr. Henderson, who tried to log on to our system?
We constantly see a large amount of attempts to log in, everywhere from China, Russia, North Korea, you name it. However, with new symptoms we have put in place to block out large amounts of the world that we do not do business with, while we see an increase in traffic attempts, especially during elections, we are much more able to respond to that accurately and in quick time periods at this point.
What's the total?
Well, we see anything between 45 to 50,000 attempts sometimes, depending how it sits on there and depends on the day. As we've shared, some of our more prevalent public-facing names are some of our heaviest hits. So Ms. Hegvig is always constantly traveling, it seems. We'll see Zimbabwe or France or London. So
she's a go-getter.
Yes,
I
go-getter.
do love Zimbabwe. Victoria Falls is amazing.
But just big call out again to our security team who has put in these proactive steps to be able for us to block these out ahead of the time. This year we were able to respond dramatically faster due to the work we've put in during the time between now and then.
Mr. Henderson, thank you. Commissioner Shirley?
I just, 45 to 50,000
We get-
attempts per week?
It depends on the day. Sometimes you'll see a big spike, sometimes you won't. If we're in the paper, then we'll go up. If there's something else going on, it'll go down. There's not really rhyme or reason to it. And those are only the ones that we're aware of. Things that are blocked before they even get to us by like our state partners and things like that increases. We are constantly under attack every day, and that's just the nature of the world these days.
Yep. So when Mr. Henderson and team show up and ask for all these copious in your predecessor, I always gave grief to as well regarding the software licenses. This is why we invest. Because when folks, our constituents come to us and say, boy, during the election, we had a hack, we had a thing, we had an activity, we can say, yeah, we might have, but we didn't. Because of all the proactive resources and time, your team, and obviously Ms. Madriga's team as well, have invested to prevent these things from happening. Commissioner Shirley.
But to be clear, you're not blocking those from the election. You're talking about our emails, our website.
So
people that would do us harm.
It's potential access to county systems in an unauthorized manner. So that would be attempting to log into SharePoint, trying to act as if they are Taylor or Mr. Wilson or things like that. We are constantly under attack for people trying to act as if they are a representative of the county. And this is everything from very minor things. We're not immune to being hit by some of our townships who have the same thing. If they get a new person elected at a township, we'll probably have an email going out saying, hey, I'm Jim from Township XYZ, come pay your dues. And it's someone that just made a Gmail and said their name is Jim. It's low-hanging fruit.
But just to be clear, people aren't hacking into our election system.
No, the election system, go ahead, Brandon.
That's what I wanted to just
Yes. I want to be very clear, none of our election equipment touches the internet, period. So none of this would have an impact on the results of our election.
Because we're having a conversation about our election system, so that's what I'm just bringing
Complete
that
air
up.
gap. There was never a time it even connected to allow that to even be an option.
Thank
We
you.
are protected as protected can be. All right, Ms. Rodriguez, any thoughts?
Well, thank you very much. I actually didn't get much time to review the agenda before I came in here, so it was a nice surprise. And I thought that it did go very smoothly. I wanted to really thank my brand new team of Craig, Steingard, and Morris. Couldn't have done it without them. In the end, this was a trial run for the general election. We expect the general election is going to be very busy, so we wanted to ensure that we got our polling locations set up for our voters in a convenient way. And we've received some good feedback on that. We wanted to make sure that our process was good so that our voters can have a good general election, because that is when they're going to show up.
All right, thank you much. Again, thank you to you and your team. Item 9, vouchers, Commissioner Breitling.
I've reviewed the statement from the finance office and have no objections. Move to approve.
Is there a second, please?
Second.
Second, any discussion on the motion? Any discussion on the motion? Any discussion? If not, roll call, please.
Commissioner Sherling?
Yes.
Commissioner Breitling?
Yes.
Commissioner Peterson? Commissioner Grinberg?
Aye.
Commissioner Capitan?
Yes. All right, item 10, committee reports. Commissioner Grinberg.
Nothing to report from Minot, North Dakota.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Wilson.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, a number of you who are attending the NACO convention this summer in Tampa, I think are starting to get emails asking for the voting delegate or delegates for the annual business meeting that's part of the convention. That's something there's a deadline prior, either during the convention, a couple of days prior to the actual business meeting, or a couple of days prior to all of us arriving down there. This year I happen to not be attending this year's meeting because I've got a conflict, and so I'll miss the first one since I've been here. But discussion for members of the board who are attending, or who you want your voting reps to be. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention, as a number of you have reached out to me on that topic.
Wasn't it Commissioner Capitan?
Well, my opinion is, if the chair is going there, I think the chair should be the voting delegate.
I will be there. I'll be there a day early. I'm actually speaking as well, so I'll be there a day early.
I would move that the chair be the voting delegate.
Thank you. Oh, shoot, yeah, you probably shouldn't. We can
Just make a recommendation.
make a recommendation.
Okay, make
Perfect.
it a recommendation.
Outstanding, well done.
And that would be consistent with,
Support that recommendation.
that would be consistent with past practices as well.
Mr. Wilson, continue, please.
Only other thing I have is Mr. Henderson and Taylor and have both reviewed a number of different vendors, a number of products for agenda management software. Mr. Henderson and I had a meeting with Commissioner Grinberg about probably a preferred product last week. I think we will look to include that in the admin budget for next year, and may still be considering asking for a budget adjustment before the end of this year, because I think the cost of that would be much less than the additional productivity of Taylor's time. And so I think the question of whether I bring that forward would be prior to the end of the year or as part of the budget for 2025. But just wanted to let you know that Taylor and Bob have, I think, looked at 4 different vendors, have researched this pretty extensively. End result would be an easier process, both for commissioners to review packets and prepare for meetings, but also have a better packaged set of information that the public could review as they're reviewing the commission's business as well.
Does that work on archive as well, or?
No, going to be moving forward.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Wilson, anything further?
Nothing further.
Commissioner Breitling.
No report, except I do have a question. one of the items that Taylor provided me additional information on was a list of appointments that we can make where the boards are sitting there waiting for an applicant. On the extraterritorial planning appointments, does the county get to vote to have an appointment for the West Fargo one and the Fargo one?
I know we do with Fargo. Taylor, West Fargo?
Yeah, actually, this last Friday we have a question on another appointment from another city planning and zoning. So Tracy and I were reviewing the century code on it, and I can send you the statute, but it's pretty clear in there that based on the population of that city, the county can appoint 1 up to 3 or 4 based on population. So it would be based on West Fargo and Fargo's population of how many representatives that the county appoints, or that the commission appoints.
We have an open position on the West Fargo extraterritorial planning and zoning commission.
Yeah, I think there's, I don't know, 4 or 5 different ones that we have.
So our comms team is actively communicating that out to the public at large, trying to recruit people, so it's on our websites, and if we know anybody, we always seem to have vacancies, so if we know folks that want to participate.
I think it's a little bit different for Fargo and West Fargo because they actually have ET areas, but some of the smaller cities, like I think there's one open in like Grandin, and it's like, well, their ET area is like maybe 1 or 2 houses, so if it's not one of those 2 people that want to serve on the board, there's no one to do it.
Commissioner Sherling.
And I can say I served in that capacity for the city of Fargo for a decade, and a lot of fun, long meetings.
Fun, huh?
I'll
let you.
There was beverage.
That's a word.
They do. They serve snacks, and it's a really interesting work. Honestly, I mean, if you like that sort of thing, I did. But after a while, it just got to be a lot of time commitment that I was running out of hours in the day. But I would encourage other people, and you have to live in Fargo's ET, which is long and narrow. So it's either south of Fargo or it's north of Fargo. And, there's a few housing developments, but not as many since most have been flooded out over the years.
Commissioner Capitan, question?
Different than the Fargo Planning and Zoning Commission?
That's exactly what it is.
It's the same thing.
Okay, the same thing. Well, that's been, ever since you vacated that seat, hasn't it been open ever since?
It's been open ever since, yeah.
Right. Commissioner Brightly, anything further, sir?
No, that was a question, really.
Perfect. Commissioner Sherling.
And I guess I'll have nothing but time here coming up in December, so.
Quiet, I wouldn't tell anybody that.
I'll be emailing you.
Yeah. Well, anyway, let's see. Well, we've been busy with Triple RDC. Glad we got those bids in, and we're going to be moving right along with that. I attended the Red River Basin Commission meeting, and sorry I didn't bring the handout, but I will try to remember to do that. But they've been awarded a federal grant that is really quite impressive, and it's been matched with some big funds from General Mills and some other large corporations in water quality and drainage and best farm practices, cover crops. So that's really exciting. So I'll try to bring some funds for that. But it's several $1 million that's going to be used in the valley to encourage farmers with best farming practices. And so I think that's pretty cool. Also, just been dealing with some interesting things with Tom. Even though it's not my portfolio, I always like to engage Commissioner Breitling in these things, but I'm always happy when people bring forward these interesting issues. A baseball diamond we're dealing with in Hunter, I believe. Apsaraka, that's right. And then Fargo Township. There is Fargo Township just north of Fargo, and got about 3 people living in it. And they're wondering who's taking care of the roads, and apparently nobody is. So we're going to see if we can dissolve that township or if Fargo wants it or something, but it's sitting up there all by itself.
I
Wondering
think they
whether-
have like $20 in their budget too.
No, they actually have some money in their
They
budget.
Do they
have
really?
40,000 sitting in their
Yeah,
coffers.
Well, well done, Fargo Township.
yeah, so
Way to
we'll-
save.
We'll see what we can do with that. So it's kind of interesting when these different challenges pop up. And then the other one, thank you to Caitlin for getting the word out on County 31 Bridge. That's a big bridge northwest of Harwood that unfortunately is, those things are going to be expensive, going to be up for another commission to figure out how to fund those. Usually we get some federal funds, but it takes a long time. It's going to be very inconvenient for those people that live up there, especially if they're doing any farm to market work. So that's it.
Thank you. State's Attorney.
I want to congratulate my team, led by Renata Selzer and Brianna Kraft. Today they put away a very, very, very dangerous man, Carl Ford. He's the gentleman I spoke to you all about probably a month or two ago when he was convicted by a jury for almost taking his girlfriend's jaw completely off. And we very seldom file something called a habitual offender, where the judge can basically double the amount of time that a person can serve for committing particular crimes. And Mr. Ford was sentenced to 10 years in prison. So it was a very, very good result. Cass County is safe for today because of the work that my office does. We receive a grant. It's called VOCA. It's the Victims of Crime Act. We learned last week that the dollar amount of that grant will be decreasing significantly over the next couple of years. I just wanted to make sure that the commission is aware of that. We're going to be having to look at what we're getting in exchange for what we are required to do for that grant, and making some difficult decisions on whether that's a grant we want to continue to pursue, which is unfortunate because it's a great grant. It's been a wonderful program. This year, we received $45,000 from that grant, and for the last several years, we've received $40,000. Next year, we'll be lucky to get $20,000 to $30,000, and the year after that, maybe in the $10,000 to $20,000 range. So it's disappointing, to say the least. My office is participating in, it's called Ed Ventures. It's through the chamber, the local Chamber of Commerce. June 27th, I'll be hosting a couple of area educators as well as some staff members from the Chamber of Commerce. Catlin was kind enough to put together a handout outlining all of the different departments that are in the county, the department head names, and how people can look for jobs in Cass County. And they'll be putting this handout in the bag of every single educator who's participating, whether they're coming to the Cass County Courthouse or they're going to one of a couple dozen other employers. So thank you, Catlin. It turned out really well, and hopefully that will get more people interested in working for county government. And if you're interested in giving any sorts of blurbs while we have those visitors, you're welcome. It's June 27th from 10 to 12 is when they'll be in the courthouse. Hiring-wise, while I was sitting here, I learned that one of the two victim witness coordinator applicants accepted the offer that we made. So we had a record number of applicants for our two victim witness coordinator openings, somewhere in the 80s. I think it was between like 85 and 87 or something like that, which is unheard of for us. And it shows that people are paying attention to county postings, and when the salary is good and the benefits are good, people will apply. So it's a relief for me to know that my office can maintain that level of service that the victims of crimes in Cass County deserve. We're also hiring a legal assistant and an office support specialist, hoping to be back to fully staffed again sometime in August. And if the results of the primary election are an indicator of, the primary are indicator of what the general is going to look like, I'll be hiring again November. So I attended the North Dakota Bar Association conference last week. It was in Fargo, so it was good to see everybody, take in some good CLEs, do some networking.
this week is the State's Attorneys Association Conference. That'll be in Bismarck, so I will be out there on Thursday. A few of my other staff members will be attending as well. And I did have one of my staff attorneys, he was just in Alabama. He went to an advanced training for digital forensics, and he said he has some great information to bring back, and it'll be useful for my office. That is my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Capitan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was invited and attended the Castleton Main Street Initiative about a week ago, I guess. There were a lot of folks there, including our Vice Governor, Tammy Miller, she was there. And then I attended the Grand Farm dedication and came back to attend the NDSU Ag Bowls building groundbreaking, and then ran from there over to the NDSU Peltier building dedication. And then I had a NACO veterans, military and veterans teams call, and I took several, I shouldn't say several, 3 NDACO ILG courses or classes, whatever you want to call them, and then had Thursday, the NACO Transportation Committee call. I've been busy for last week or so, about every other day. That ends mine.
Thank you. Finance.
No report, thank you.
All right. From my perspective, had our annual North Dakota Insurance Reserve Fund meeting, get together and discuss policy and updates for the upcoming year. We do not have a director yet, but I am not the president anymore, so I'm not the director anymore, which is awesome. So we have another, our current chair is our interim director, and things are going well. Hopefully within the next month or so, we'll have someone to lead that organization going forward, A. And then B, I was appointed to the North Dakota Housing Advisory Committee by Governor Burgum. We had that meeting last week or a week and a half ago, and that was great. The neat thing about that is we're finding out that as bad as everything may be for affordability here in North Dakota, we're better than everybody else. So houses, as an example, houses in Montana, median house price in Montana is, Commissioner, you probably know this, $465,000. Oh, if you can find one. So I jokingly said I am actually working on a housing development in Montana, and we got a briefing from the Minnesota Fed showed up, and I said every one of my houses is now going up 50 grand because hey, why not? So and we're still going to be under market regardless. So as bad as everything is, we are still better than our peers, and it's getting better. I do think my takeaway, we went through and had our whole day meeting, did a round table and said, what are your big takeaways for the day? And I said, my big takeaway is, A, I'm raising my price 50 grand. Second of all, and they laughed. That was awesome. So second of all, I said, the concern I have with a group this big, and we have folks from all over the state. We have folks from energy. We have folks from government, every person, private and public. I said, the biggest concern I have is this many people in a group this big, we always think too big. To me, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. We need to be taking the low-hanging fruit. That's the easy stuff. We can move on to policy and big picture things like the legacy fund loaning money to the right people that aren't making $1.8 million on a development. Maybe the little guys that are making $40,000 on a development. Maybe focus our guns on those folks and help spur that along. So I think that was taken with some credence. So hopefully we can walk out of this, get together. We have 2 more meetings this summer, and we'll finalize it, get ready for the state legislature to get together here next session. Hopefully we can take some wins to them if we need them. If not, some tidbits of advice from local government to move forward and help people be more housed than they are right now. Correspondence.
No correspondence.
Item 12. Is there a second? Second. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, same sign. We stand adjourned. Thank you, everybody, for another long meeting.